The story of longevity and health always sparks genuine interest. Imagine a person who, at 102 years old, independently goes mushroom hunting and hasn't needed a sick leave in 47 years. It sounds incredible, but that's the secret shared by one attentive viewer. According to her, the key to her long and active life is just 5 simple foods that she eats daily. When you first hear about such facts, you can't help but wonder, how is this possible? 102 years is a long life, an entire era filled with many events and changes. And against this backdrop, a person not only lives but also maintains a clear mind, a cheerful spirit, and the ability to take care of themselves. This makes you think about what we know about old age and how to live a long and healthy life. What secret does this amazing woman hold? What knowledge allows her to stay in such great shape at such a venerable age? She talks about her lifestyle in simple and understandable language, without complex terms or highfalutin. Reasoning. She shares her secrets as if she were chatting with an old friend over a cup of tea. And this is where it gets interesting, especially when it comes to the drinks she consumes. But let's not get ahead of ourselves to keep the intrigue alive. In her letter, she says, "Don't think I'm anything special. I'm a simple woman. I've worked hard all my life, like many others. I worked on a collective farm, then at a textile factory for almost 40 years. I remember the war and the post-war famine. We didn't have any delicacies or overseas treats. Maybe that's why I've survived, because I'm used to simplicity and what nature gives, not the chemicals from boxes." The expression, "used to simplicity," seems to best reflect the essence of her life philosophy. When Zinaida Sergeyevna begins to gradually reveal the secrets of her diet, based on 5 main foods that she eats daily, it becomes obvious that the genius of her approach lies in its amazing accessibility and naturalness. There is no place in her diet for exotic avocados, with goji berries, overseas spirulina, or chia seeds, which were unheard of in Soviet times. And even now, not everyone can afford them. Instead, she uses simple and native products that grow literally under her feet or cost a penny in the store. But here's the question. How exactly does she use them, in what combinations, and at what time? This really deserves the closest attention and deep respect. Zinaida Sergeyevna, for example, compares her life with that of her longtime neighbor, Lydia Stepanovna, who is almost her age. She is now 72 years old. She is a good woman, Lyda, responsive, always ready to help. Our long liver says warmly about her. But the trouble is that she can't get rid of her ailments, as if they have settled in her forever. In the morning, as if on a set schedule, a handful of pills for blood pressure at lunch, another for joints, and in the evening, a third for the stomach, and also for sleep. Otherwise she won't fall asleep. And still, her head spins so much that she can't see the light of day. Then her heart aches so much that it's painful to breathe. Then her legs don't obey, as if they are alien. Her daughter Golochka is already retired, complains that her mother has become very weak, almost doesn't leave the house, mostly lies down and watches TV. But once Lida and I were such gigglers, restless, worked in the same shift at the factory, overfulfilled all the plans. I tell her now and then, in an old woman's way, as a neighbor, "Lidusha, why did you let yourself go like that? Maybe you should try eating like me. It's not difficult at all and it's inexpensive." And she just waves her hand saying, "Zina, it's good for you. You have a strong health from nature, and now only doctors and medicines will help me." The doctors may be trying, prescribing more and more new prescriptions, but as they say, the situation remains unchanged. I feel sorry for her, very sorry. Listening to such stories, unfortunately, so common these days, you can't help but feel a poignant sadness in your heart. How many women around us, whose fates could have turned out completely differently, filled with energy, vigor, and satisfaction, if only they knew and applied the simple but effective principles available to everyone. secrets that the amazing Zinaida Sergeyevna so willingly shares. And here is the first of these secrets, which, I confess, amazed me, and even made me reread the lines twice to make sure I understood correctly. "I have never drunk tea in my life," she declares categorically, "and especially coffee. These are just useless drinks that only unnecessarily excite the heart, raise blood pressure, and cause heartburn. There is no benefit to the body from them, only an illusion. I drink water, ordinary clean water, but with one immutable rule: never boiled. Boiled water is dead. In the process of boiling, it loses all its vitality. Fortunately, there's a pure spring at the foot of the mountain here. My grandfather developed it. Now, my great-grandson brings me water in large glass bottles once a week. But before, when I was younger, I used to go with buckets myself. I wasn't lazy. I drink this living water little by little throughout the day, in small sips. But the most important thing is the morning ritual. As soon as I wake up, even before exercise and washing, the first thing I do is drink a full glass of raw water. You can warm it up slightly to make it comfortable for the stomach, but not cold. And if there's a fresh lemon, I add 3 or 4 drops of juice. If there's no lemon, then just plain water is fine. The body wakes up after a night's sleep, and every cell rejoices in this moisture. All vital processes are started. So, friends, just water. Not some exotic smoothies or freshly squeezed juices, but ordinary living water. And another morning ritual that Zinaida Sergeyevna unfailingly performs before breakfast. Immediately after the water, she shares her experience. I prepare what I call a broom for the stomach and cleansing of blood vessels. I take a small carrot. If it's grown in my garden, it's simply a priceless gift, but an ordinary store-bought carrot will also do. I grate it on the smallest plastic or ceramic grater. I try not to use an iron one. I add 1 small but pungent clove of garlic there, and I season all this with a dessert spoon of unrefined sunflower oil, the one with a bright aroma of seeds that used to be sold in bulk at the market, and not this modern tasteless oil. I mix it all thoroughly and eat it slowly, chewing each spoonful carefully so that all the nutrients are absorbed. And only about 40 minutes or even an hour later, when I feel that my stomach is ready, I proceed to a full breakfast: porridge, oatmeal, or buckwheat, or something else light. Can you imagine such a combination of flavors? Fresh carrots, seasoned with garlic and flavored with fragrant country oil. At first, such a thought causes some bewilderment, especially if you imagine such a breakfast. However, if you delve into the essence, remembering the instructions about the benefits of vegetables, which sounded back in Soviet schools, the true value of this simple dish is revealed. Carrots are a storehouse of natural fiber, like a broom, sweeping away everything superfluous from the intestines. It is a source of vitamin A, necessary to maintain visual acuity and healthy skin. Garlic, as you know, is a natural antibiotic that destroys harmful microorganisms and cleanses blood vessels. And unrefined oil is living fat, which helps the absorption of vitamins and is itself extremely beneficial for the body. Ingenious and simple, like everything truly wise, taking its roots from the earth itself. If you, like the author, are imbued with this simple but deep life philosophy, this wisdom emanating from the 102-year-old Zinaida Sergeyevna, and if her words resonate in your soul, express your support in the comments, writing just 3 words: health and strength to Zinaida Sergeyevna. It can be assumed that she, living in her modest village house, will be pleased to realize that her experience is valuable and in demand by her descendants. A special impression and spiritual trepidation is caused in her detailed letter by the inextricable connection between her nutritional principles and the experience of previous generations, with the folk peasant wisdom that we urban residents have practically lost in the hustle and bustle of modern life and the pursuit of technological progress. My grandmother, the late Evdokia Lukinichna, Zinaida Sergeyevna recalls with warmth, lived for 96 long years. Until old age, she was not bedridden, did not suffer from ailments, until the last day she was busy around the house, looked after her fidgety great-grandchildren, and even joked. She had a light and cheerful character, she taught me still quite young. Zinusha, granddaughter, remember my words for the rest of your life. All the strength of a person, all his health, from the feeding land and from simplicity in food. Don't chase after bar delicacies and overseas delicacies. Eat what God sent, what grows under your feet, and little by little in moderation. And no disease will overcome you. You will be strong as an oak. Her morning water procedure and simple but incredibly healthy carrot juice are available to almost everyone. It is difficult to overestimate their beneficial effects. The author's neighbor, Lydia, for example, relies on expensive imported medicines, which, while alleviating some ailments, inevitably harm other organs, causing side effects. While nature itself offers health on a platter, without any harm or violence to the body. Indeed, it is difficult to dispute this age-old wisdom. Modern society has become so accustomed to complex medical terms and multicolored pills for every, even minor problem, that it has ceased to notice and appreciate simple, natural, and effective remedies, always available in the nearest forest or in its own garden. It turns out that achieving 102 years of age in sound mind and sharp memory, while maintaining vigor of spirit and body, doesn't require secret scientific laboratories or fabulously expensive elixirs of youth. All that's needed is knowledge passed down from generation to generation, from heart to heart, along with the willpower and discipline to follow this age-old wisdom daily. But that's not all of Zinaida Sergeyevna's secrets, generously revealed in her letter. There are 3 more products that she invariably includes in her diet, and they will undoubtedly surprise and perhaps even shock the reader as much as the first 2. What follows is a careful and attentive analysis of this amazing letter, full of vitality and experience that money can't buy. In these simple lines, sometimes written with errors, there is so much wisdom that it's astonishing how modern, educated society has managed to squander this precious heritage in a mad rush for empty, imposed ideals and trendy, often harmful theories. After all, the most valuable things, as is often the case in life, lie on the surface. You just need to bend down, reach out, and take them. But these next revelations will be discussed a little later, in order to savor every detail of this priceless message. It's worth recalling that Zinaida Sergeyevna, a centenarian at 102, shared 2 morning rituals: drinking live, unboiled water with lemon, and preparing a broom for the stomach from carrots, garlic, and sunflower oil. These simple actions performed daily can transform the body, especially with many years of practice. Zinaida Sergeyevna's example serves as a clear demonstration. However, this is only part of her secrets to longevity. In her letter, she continues to share the wisdom that has allowed her to maintain clarity of mind, good memory, and physical strength despite her age. Next, she tells a story illustrating the importance of listening to the experience of elders and their intuitive knowledge. I had an only nephew, Kolyenka, writes Zinaida Sergeyevna, and in these words you can feel a warm and sad note. The son of my late younger sister, Katyusha. He was a golden boy, hard-working, smart, an engineer at the factory, but very fussy. He chased after fashion, wanted to be like everyone else, even better. In the 90s, when everything changed, he seemed to lose his head. He ate on the go, sandwiches with sausage, instant noodles, coffee. I told him, "Kolyenka's son, take care of yourself. You're pale, thin, with circles under your eyes. Eat some homemade soup, cabbage soup or porridge." And he would joke, "What's cabbage soup in the 21st century? I have business, things to do. I don't have time." For your cabbage, he bought foreign vitamins, thinking he could buy health at the pharmacy. But he ignored my advice. In the end, he didn't even live to be 50. His heart couldn't withstand such a race and mockery of his body. He burned out like a candle. But he could have lived, raised children, and waited for grandchildren. That's what deceptive fashion and the speeds of modern life are like. This sad story is, unfortunately, all too typical of our time. How many Kolenkas are around us who, striving for external gloss and fleeting trends, lose sight of the most important thing, the foundation of good health and longevity. Zinaida Sergeyevna's simple but profound words sound like a bitter but necessary warning for modern man. However, casting aside sad thoughts, it's worth turning to her invaluable advice. The third product that she invariably includes in her daily diet may at first seem surprisingly simple and accessible. But here, too, Zinaida Sergeyevna has her own secret, her own small but important trick. "I eat bread every day, without fail. I can't do without it," she shares. But only black rye bread, and better yet, real village bread, on homemade sourdough, with a characteristic sour taste. White bread and sweet rolls are just an empty amusement. They only cause bloating and heaviness in the stomach, and there's no benefit. But in black bread, there is strength and benefit for the blood and intestines. Zinaida Sergeyevna uses it in a special way. She takes a small, about 50 grams, thinly sliced piece and rubs it with a dry crust of garlic, creating a light, teasing aroma. Then she spreads a thin layer of ordinary Russian table mustard, the very pungent one, from small glass jars, on the bread. She eats this unusual sandwich either 20 minutes before lunch to awaken her appetite, or simply when she feels the need to replenish her energy. According to her, after such a medicine, digestion works like clockwork, appetite becomes healthy and moderate, and colds stay away, even when everyone around is sick. As another element of the diet, black rye bread is featured, endowed with a light garlic aroma and a delicate layer of spicy mustard. Rye bread is a storehouse of essential B vitamins and fiber, necessary for healthy digestion. Garlic, even in such a subtle manifestation, serves as a natural protector of the body, and mustard has long been famous for its stimulating properties, activating the production of gastric juice, improving digestion, exhibiting antimicrobial qualities, and warming from within. It is no coincidence that folk wisdom prescribed putting mustard plasters or steaming feet with mustard at the first signs of a cold. Here, the effect of an internal mustard plaster is achieved, which, according to Zinaida Sergeyevna, has a pleasant taste and stimulates the appetite. This solution is distinguished by wisdom, simplicity, and genius. Next comes the fourth product, or rather, a whole class of products that have formed the basis of the centenarian's dining table for many decades. The first course for lunch is always liquid and hot. The 102-year-old subscriber shares her principles. "I can't imagine lunch without a plate of rich soup or fragrant cabbage soup. This is not subject to discussion. This is an original Russian Slavic tradition that arose for a reason. The stomach needs enveloping, easily digestible food for good work without overload." Here, too, there are important nuances that can negate all the benefits. "I never cook soups in meat broth, whether beef or chicken. I consider it too heavy for my age. In addition, there is not as much benefit from fatty extractive broths as we have been led to believe. The real strength, vitamins, and minerals are contained in vegetables and herbs. Therefore, my cabbage soup is always lean, but thick, hearty, and rich, thanks to the abundance of fresh or sauerkraut, well-boiled potatoes, and sweet carrots." It is amazing how sometimes life presents us with stories that seem incredible. Zinaida Sergeyevna, our subscriber, at her 102 years, not only thrives but also amazes the imagination. Almost half a century without a single sick leave, independent mushroom picking at such a venerable age. Isn't this fantasy? However, according to the long liver herself, the secret lies in 5 simple products that are present in her daily diet, which have become a kind of elixir of vigor and longevity. And the most interesting thing is that these products are available to each of us. I confess, when I first read Zinaida Sergeyevna's letter, my first thought was full of skepticism. It can't be. 102 years is a whole era, a period that has accommodated cardinal changes in the country and the world. And against the background of these changes, she not only lived, but also maintained a clear mind, physical activity, the ability to self-care, and even shared the secrets of her health. Agree, this is not just impressive. It makes you reconsider established ideas about old age, its inevitable ailments, and fading away. Inevitably, the question arises, what is the secret of this amazing woman? What knowledge allows her to remain in such great shape at such a venerable age? Zinaida Sergeyevna writes simply, without scientific terms and intricate phrases, as if sharing the innermost with an old friend over a cup of tea. And here begins a series of surprises, related in particular to drinks, but more on that later. Dear, she addresses me in the letter, and these words emanate warmth and wisdom of generations. Don't think that I am some special person, not from noble families. All my life I worked hard, like all Soviet people, tirelessly. First on a collective farm, still a girl, then at a weaving factory for almost 40 years. And I remember the war and the post-war famine, when potato peeling seemed like a delicacy. There was no time for frills. Maybe that's why I survived, because I got used to simplicity and the gifts of nature, and not to the chemistry from boxes. The expression "got used to simplicity" seems to most accurately reflect the essence of Zinaida Sergeyevna's innovative approach. As she gradually reveals the secrets of her nutrition system, based on 5 main products, it becomes obvious that the genius of her method lies in amazing accessibility and naturalness. There is no place in her diet for exotic avocados or overseas spirulina, which the older generation has not even heard of. And even today, not everyone can afford such delicacies. On the contrary, her diet is based on simple and familiar products that can be found in any store for a modest price. However, it is in the unique combination and time of consumption of these products that the secret of her longevity and health lies. Comparing her life with the life of her longtime neighbor Lydia Stepanovna, almost her peer, Zinaida Sergeyevna speaks warmly of her. She is now 72 years old. Lida is a kind and sympathetic woman, always ready to help. But, unfortunately, she continues, Lydia Stepanovna constantly suffers from illnesses. In the morning, she takes a handful of pills for pressure, at lunch, for joints, and in the evening, for the stomach and to improve sleep. And still, she is tormented by dizziness, heart pain, and weakness in her legs. Lydia's daughter, Galina, who is already a pensioner herself, complains about the poor health of her mother, who almost never leaves the house and watches TV all day long. Once upon a time, she and Lydia were tireless laughers, working the same shift at the factory and always exceeding their quotas. Zinaida Sergeyevna, like a good neighbor, advises Lydia to try her diet, assuring her that it's simple and inexpensive. But Lydia just brushes it off, believing that Zinaida Sergeyevna's health is a gift of nature, and only doctors and medicine can help her. And although the doctors try and write new prescriptions, Lydia Stepanovna's condition does not improve. Zinaida Sergeyevna sincerely pities her neighbor, seeing her suffering. Listening to such stories, unfortunately, which have become commonplace, one involuntarily feels a poignant longing in the heart. How many women are around us whose fates could have turned out differently, filled with energy and joy, if they knew and applied simple but effective secrets available to everyone. Secrets that the amazing Zinaida Sergeyevna is so willing to share. And here is the first of these secrets, which I confess surprised me and even made me reread the letter twice. I have never drunk tea in my life, she claims, and especially coffee. These are empty drinks, just uselessly stirring the heart, causing high blood pressure and heartburn. There is no benefit from them, only a semblance. I drink water, ordinary clean water, but with an important condition, not boiled. Boiled water is dead. When boiled, it loses all its strength. We here, fortunately, have a clean spring under the mountain. My grandfather built it. Now my great-grandson brings me water once a week in large glass bottles by car. And before, when I was younger, I went with buckets myself, didn't lazy. I drink this living water little by little throughout the day, in small sips. But the most important thing is the morning. As soon as I wake up, even before exercise and washing, the first thing I do is drink a full glass of raw water. You can slightly warm it so that the stomach is pleased, but not cold. And if there is a fresh lemon, I add 3 or 4 drops of juice there. If there is no lemon, then it's okay. Just clean water. The body comes to life after a night's sleep. Every cell rejoices in moisture. All processes are launched. So friends, just water. Not overseas smoothies or freshly squeezed juices from exotic fruits, but ordinary living water. And another morning ritual that Zenaida Sergeyevna unfailingly performs before breakfast. Immediately after water, she shares, I prepare myself a broom for the stomach and for cleansing blood vessels. I take a small carrot. If it is from the garden, it is simply invaluable. But an ordinary store-bought one will do. I rub it on the smallest plastic or ceramic grater, trying not to use an iron one. I add 1 small but sharp clove of garlic there. I season all this with a dessert spoon of unrefined sunflower oil with a bright smell of seeds, as they used to. Sell on the market in bulk and not modern tasteless. I mix all this thoroughly and eat slowly, without hurrying, carefully chewing each spoonful, so that all the benefits are absorbed. And only after 40 minutes or even an hour, when I feel that the stomach is ready, I sit down for a real breakfast, porridge, oatmeal, or buckwheat, or something light. Imagine this unusual combination. Fresh carrots, seasoned with garlic and flavored with fragrant village oil. At first, such an idea of breakfast might cause a slight bewilderment. However, after thinking about it, one involuntarily recalls the lessons of the Soviet school about the invaluable benefits of vegetables. Carrots are a storehouse of natural fiber, like a brush, sweeping away everything unnecessary from the intestines, as well as vitamin A, necessary to maintain visual acuity and skin health. Garlic, as you know, is a natural antibiotic, capable of destroying pathogenic microorganisms and cleansing blood vessels. Unrefined oil, in turn, is rich in living fats, which contribute to the absorption of vitamins and are themselves extremely beneficial for the body. This is a brilliant and simple solution, filled with the wisdom of nature itself. Especially striking and touching in her detailed letter is the deep, inseparable connection of her principles of nutrition with the experience of ancestors, with the folk peasant wisdom that we, urban residents, have almost lost in the bustle of modern life. My grandmother, the late Evdokia Lukinishna, Zenaida Sergeyevna recalls with warmth, lived for 96 long years. Until old age she remained active, did not suffer from diseases, and until the last day took care of the house and looked after her mischievous great-grandchildren. In the summer, when the garden generously gives its fruits, she always adds to the soup all the young greens that come to hand. Young sorrel for a pleasant sourness, scalded nettles, juicy beet tops, and tender leaves of young. Cabbage. In winter, when fresh vegetables become unavailable, she uses her stalks, dried parsley and celery roots, dried dill, and, of course, bay leaf. Or she prepares a simple but no less useful vegetable soup. Potatoes, carrots, onions, a little millet or rice for satiety and thickness. And she always adds a lot of different fresh herbs to any soup, parsley and dill. If fresh herbs aren't available, she doesn't hesitate to use dried ones, which she always has stocked up for the entire winter. Her second dish is also always very simple. It's porridge. Yes, the most ordinary, unpretentious porridge, buckwheat, her favorite, or golden millet, or barley, or even pearl barley, which many unfairly overlook. She cooks all her porridges exclusively in water, without adding milk. Sometimes, for more flavor and satiety, she adds a spoonful of that fragrant sunflower oil to the already cooked, slightly cooled porridge. And that's it. This is an example of a complete and healthy. Lunch accessible to everyone, simple, nutritious, not causing heaviness or drowsiness. but on the contrary giving strength and a good mood. It's just lean vegetable cabbage soup and ordinary porridge cooked in water. In the era of modern gastronomic abundance, when store shelves are overflowing with meat delicacies, sausages, cheeses, and exotic sweets, such a lunch may seem almost ascetic, going against generally accepted ideas about tasty and varied food. However, as we know, vegetables supply the body with essential vitamins, minerals, and valuable fiber. Porridges, in turn, are a source of slow, healthy carbohydrates, providing long-lasting satiety, supporting brain function, and preventing sharp spikes in blood sugar levels, which are harmful to blood vessels. Zinaida Sergeyevna, in her letter filled with worldly wisdom, seems to echo these thoughts, slowly confirming. Back in the day, dear, in our villages and small towns, people lived more modestly, without the current conveniences, but they were friendlier and more united. And they shared useful knowledge, including about health, openly and generously with each other. If someone was afflicted with an illness or needed life advice, there was always a healer or simply an experienced woman in the village who could suggest the right herb, teach how to prepare a healing decoction, and give sincere advice from the heart. But what is happening now? People seem to be hiding in their well-appointed apartments, like snails in their shells. Everyone is on their own, with no concern for their neighbor. But after all, health, if you think about it, is our common asset. The more healthy, energetic, and positive people there are around us, the brighter, happier, and kinder our life will become. Memories of how people used to intuitively use the gifts of nature for their own benefit resonate with what we today, reinterpreting the past, call the Soviet experience in a new light. After all, many of these simple but effective health recipes were widespread and commonly used in Soviet times, especially in rural areas or in those urban families where traditions and connection with the land were still preserved. Decoctions of wild herbs instead of store-bought tea, active use of wild plants, berries, mushrooms, and edible plants in food, simple but reliable methods of preserving vegetables and fruits for the winter, allowing to preserve maximum vitamins. With the advent of the era of ostentatious Western prosperity and intrusive advertising of imported goods, many valuable knowledge and experiences of the past were undeservedly forgotten, and sometimes even ridiculed as relics of the old days, as a manifestation of backwardness. However, as it turned out, it is in these relics, in the age-old wisdom of the people, that the true, inexhaustible strength and guarantee of good health lie. Take, for example, rosehip infusion, prepared according to a special old recipe, with the addition of dried hawthorn flowers and berries. My dear, Zinaida Sergeyevna wrote, all these overseas teas are just frivolity, but the real strength that nourishes the heart and cleanses the blood is contained in our rosehip and hawthorn. But they must be prepared wisely in order to extract the benefits. I never boil rosehips. All the strength goes away from the fire. I take a handful of whole rosehip berries, a handful of dried hawthorn flowers and berries, put them in a clay pot, pour spring water, hot but not boiling. It was called white key. Close it, wrap it in an old padded jacket, and leave it warm overnight. By morning, the infusion is ready, ruby, fragrant. I drink it instead of tea all day without sugar. Sometimes I add a spoonful of linden honey to the warm drink. This drink is more valuable for the heart than any medicine. Rosehip gives strength, and hawthorn is a guardian for the heart. Just think, not just rosehip, simmered in warmth without boiling, but also with the addition of hawthorn, which has long been known for its beneficial properties for the cardiovascular system. Our ancestors possessed these secrets. Here you have Soviet authority, the wisdom of generations, and not fashionable pills. This drink is a real elixir that each of us can prepare at home. Now, knowing all the secrets of preparation, the whole depth of this system becomes clear. These are not just products. It is a whole philosophy of life, unity with nature, and respect for the experience of ancestors. Here are the main tips from Zinaida Sergeyevna. like a summary of her long and wise life. First, don't be lazy. Movement is life. Move at least a little, but every day. Second, drink clean, living water. It washes away everything bad from the body. Third, eat simply but regularly, without frills, but with natural products. Vegetables, cereals, black bread. Fourth, listen to your body. It is the best advisor. Trust your intuition. And finally, fifth, look for joy in the little things, in the sun, in a smile. A healthy spirit is half of health. The life philosophy proposed by Zinaida Sergeyevna is a system open to everyone. It does not require impressive financial investments, but is based on a foundation of knowledge and a sincere desire to maintain health.